Today we're going to be discussing ocean governance. As human geographers, we have been looking at how we interact with one another and with the environment, and given that 2/3 of the planet is covered by water, it only seems fitting that we begin to research it. So at sea, unlike on land, we obviously know who's in charge, we know who's governing it, we know whose territory it is. But once we get past the 200 nautical miles offshore, it becomes what's known as a place of commons, whereby no one is in ownership of it. So whose responsibility is then brought into question. So the oceans are facing a vast amount of issues, which is why, again, it's very topical as a human geographer. We've got issues of conservation, of waste management, of piracy, so all areas. Well, obviously being of such a big concern and a growing concern, and the lack of control that the governments have had in overcoming some of these issues, it's brought to light how non-governmental organisations are having to step up to the challenge. So a case study would be the Shark Trust charity, which has been doing really well in bridging national governance to the international level. So they managed to ban EU shark finning in 2003. However, there's still such a big issue on the international scale that we need to kind of create a global collaboration to overcome some of these issues. Sharks are facing a magnitude of problems, so from climate change, ocean sea levels increasing in temperature, we've got them migrating elsewhere, lack of food, plastic pollution is a big one that is kind of threatening species population, as well as fishing itself is probably the biggest one. Fishing for sharks is a problem. It's done both on the science-based side of it, so we need to do shark fishing to an extent for research, but it's also where we draw the line in how many we need for that research. But on top of that, we've got growing issues of bycatch, where through commercial fishing, sharks are just being caught unintentionally, but also deliberate fishing for sharks, such as shark fin soup and for medicines. And China and Japan, mostly Asia, do shark fishing for food, but as far as science goes, it's actually more the EU and the US that are doing that. So whilst trying to tackle the larger scale issues through policy and governmental collaboration, they've been working more on the local level through education and raising awareness and kind of showing again the need for a collaboration both on the local to the national to the international scale. So individual resource use and behaviour through their education has proven to be quite a vital role. So through your diet consumption, the choices you make as a consumer are also just as important as the national scales that we're working on. For this project, I looked at the vast body of literature from experts on ocean governance, and then drawing on the case study example of the Sharks Trust, I held interviews with representatives of the Shark Trust charity, alongside conducting interviews with the public as to how they engaged with their campaign efforts. Well, the ocean is the largest carbon sink, so it's more important than all of our forests put together. So in the climate crisis, it's extremely vital that we're researching it. Having been fortunate enough to grow up by the ocean, I obviously have grown up, lived around it, seen it as such an important part of my identity and my home. So seeing the threats that it's undergone, I feel it's only fitting that we try to raise awareness and education on the topic, hence looking at this case study.